Let's take a trip down memory lane. You remember those kids shows you used to love? Man, were they awesome. I mean, they've morphed over the years since I was a kid. I had these guys. My kids had these shows. And kids currently streaming are finding a few shows to connect with too. So hit the bell if you saw one of your favorites in that lineup. And if not, comment below to tell us who you couldn't get enough of as a kid. These shows have changed over the years. My generation had scary looking puppets and some pretty crazy looking characters, and this generation has a blue dog. And they think it's all brand new when we all know this guy was the OG blue dog. Subscribe if you're a blue dog fan. Any blue dog will do. You know what hasn't changed all that much? The life lessons these shows teach us. Sure, some cultural trends and production values are different, but be kind to people, feel your feels, and clean your room. I mean, come on, those are just pretty universal lessons, and we all need to have those reminders occasionally. One of these lessons is how to interact with and get along with other people. From a very early age, we're told to be a friend, to be kind to others, and to get along with everyone, even if that person is different from us in some way. As a teenager, you might look back and think those lessons are now a little bit cheesy, but there's a significant reason why they get so much play in children's content. They're repeated because as we get older, relationships just get a lot more complicated. When we were 4 or 5 years old, it was just easier to make friends and get along with everyone, but I think we'd all agree that there's a lot more nuance when you're a teenager. Not surprising, the Bible has a lot to say about getting along with others, because getting along with others is always going to be challenging. Sometimes it's hard to even get along with ourselves, so no matter how old we get, we just got to know how to navigate relationships. In the book of Romans, we catch Paul mid-letter to the church in Rome. Paul was a major writer of the New Testament, and most of his writing are letters to new churches after Jesus was crucified. In Romans chapter 12, he starts talking about our lives being a sacrifice to God, the way we live, what we do, and how we treat people. And he talks about revenge and payback and difficulties with the people around us. And as he has that conversation, he drops this bomb in verse 18. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. Other versions of the Bible say, as much as it depends on you, live at peace. Now, think about this. Paul is writing this to a group of Christ followers who are being persecuted for their faith. So Paul isn't describing a reaction to a friend we've had a falling out with. He's talking about people who are outright terrible to us. Bullies, mean girls, jerks. The people that it might be most tough to live at peace with. How do we know this? Because if you back up a few verses, always an important practice, especially if the verse you're reading is super short, it says this starting in verse 14. Bless those who persecute you. Don't curse them. Pray that God will bless them. Be happy with those who are happy and weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with each other. Don't be too proud to enjoy the company of ordinary people, and don't think you know it all. Never pay back evil with more evil. Do things in such a way that everyone can see you are honorable. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. Did you notice how much more difficult it sounds now? Like, live at peace, kids, is way easier to stomach than bless those who persecute you. Yeah, bless them. That's what I want to do. I mean, I wonder what the church was thinking when they read that. See, most scholars think Paul wrote this when Nero was ruling, and Nero was notorious for his violent onslaught against Christians. See, Christians were problematic because they would not worship Roman gods. And while this wasn't illegal, it was definitely seen as subversive. And not only that, but most Roman emperors were considered worthy of worship as well. No way these new Christ followers were going to do that. And Nero wasn't having it. And he was brutal. There was a huge fire that burned most of Rome. And though most historians think Nero set that blaze himself, he blamed it on Christians. And then he used it as a reason to arrest them, dip them in oil, and set them ablaze as they were crucified. Some say they were put in Nero's garden to give light to his partygoers. He was also the first guy to turn Christians loose in the Colosseum to fight as gladiators. But clearly, first century Rome didn't really have Bluey to watch when they were growing up, and it showed. So now that we have a little bit of context for what's happening at the time, let's read this verse again. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. I can almost hear the Roman church just responding with a collective, you want us to do what now? So this letter was written almost 2,000 years ago, thousands of miles away, in a culture that is drastically different from ours. But one of my favorite things about Scripture is that there is so much going on that we can learn if we're just willing to really dig into it. It's not just cultural. So here's the first thing to consider when it seems like peace is impossible to you. Peace is still the goal. It might indeed be impossible. I grew up in a house where peace was super hard to come by. And the thought that I could influence that outcome in any way as a teenager with a raging abusive dad is almost laughable. And I'm sure the first century Christians felt the same way when they read that passage. And even more so because, to be fair, no one at my house was being used as a tiki torch in the backyard. So peace has to be our end game. Verse 7 in Proverbs 16 says this, when people's lives please the Lord, even their enemies are at peace with them. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God, Matthew 5:9. See, the more we read Scripture, the more we see that peace is just a part of God's character. It's a crucial part of who He is. And when Scripture calls us to make peace the goal, we get the opportunity to join God in what He's already doing in the world. But that can't happen if we place a higher value on settling the score, getting people on our side when we've been wronged. You know, peace also starts with just one person. You can't choose how people treat you, but you can choose how you respond. And in situations where you're treated poorly, if you respond with retaliation, gossip, or malice, it's a virtual guarantee that everyone moves further away from peace. Something else Paul said to the Romans and to us, verse 7, never pay back evil with more evil. So what? You're saying I should just lie down and take it, Darren? No, that's not what I'm saying. I don't think that's what Paul means as he pushes us all toward peace. I think he means that if we have a choice, our response should be to make things better. We can't always or even ever control that in another person. But if conflict is going to be resolved, it has to start somewhere. The other party may choose not to engage. Obviously, we can't force that. But as it depends on us, we can be the initiator of peace. There's a reason Paul didn't say, live at peace with everyone. That's a fool's errand. It can never happen. But as much as it depends on you, live at peace. Do what you can when you can. So what do you want me to do, Darren? Well, here's the first thing. When it's just not going well and clouds are on the horizon of your relationships, determine the level of your conflict. Conflict is all-encompassing. It can mean a simple frustration with someone to an outright all-out brawl. So let's break it down to 4 levels to make it easier. Level 1, conflict. We just don't like each other. Listen, sometimes there are people we just don't get along with, usually not the end of our world. But if we aren't careful, it can escalate into something more, usually level 2. A minor offense has been committed. Someone did start something, probably something simple. You felt left out, or maybe they're constantly cutting you off when you're talking. Sometimes in this stage of the conflict, the other person isn't even aware that they've upset you, which then can lead to level 3. A major offense has been committed. This goes beyond not getting along. two-faced, rumored spreading, intentional slights. This person knows they're firing shots across your bow, and so do you. And it can become an all-consuming conflict that spirals out of control in T-minus 2 seconds. And then finally, level 4, honestly, I'm in danger here. This is the level where conflict has escalated to the point that you genuinely fear for your own safety or the safety of someone else. Plain and simple, if you find yourself in that kind of conflict, it is absolutely crucial that you talk with a trusted adult. Now that we know the seriousness of the conflict, you gotta own your part. Conflict nearly always takes two. Not always, but mostly. But most of us are hardwired to see our side. Jesus puts a pretty serious kibosh on that. And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own eye? How can you think of saying to your friend, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye, when you can't see past the log in your own? Hypocrite. First, get rid of the log in your own eye, and then you'll see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. See, it's just a lot easier for us to point out someone else's fault, but we gotta own our own part first. Did I do anything to contribute to this conflict? Have I done anything in retaliation that has made this conflict worse? What have I said, done, or thought that might have caused pain for the other person? And if you can't be objective in that, and you probably can't, get the right person to come alongside you and help you honestly assess. The right person is someone who has your best interest at heart. It's someone you trust. It's someone who you know will tell you the truth, even if it's difficult to hear, and who you'll trust to give you that hard truth. And when you realize that you hold some responsibility, just own it, friends. Lean in, make an effort, as much as it depends on you. Live at peace. And just one more reminder before we log off. If you are in a conflict where you are worried about your own safety, don't wait. Talk to a trusted adult as soon as possible. While there's a lot that you can do to help resolve conflict on your own, when that conflict includes the threat of harm, you should not handle that by yourself. You're not alone. Peace does not equal isolation. So talk to someone. Love y'all.